Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle London. This is episode 55, season 2. We're ready to go. A little delay in dropping a podcast. But you know what? For the working man, working person, working woman, there are times where us, normal folk get busy doing family stuff and work stuff. So I missed you. Hope you missed me too. I'm ready to go here, talk about what was in the world of sports over the weekend, leading into this week's action and next weekend's action. And that includes the NHL Stanley Cup Final is set. Florida Panthers, Edmonton Oilers, Canada potentially winning or has the opportunity to win a Stanley Cup the first time since 93. The Montreal Canadiens, the last team to do so. NBA final, the Boston Celtics basically walked to the final, and the Dallas Mavericks are meeting them there. They're riding the hot hand of Luka. Kyrie returns to Boston. A lot to talk about there. We'll get into it. We'll look at the betting side. We'll look at the reverse, how they got there, and we'll look at some other stories in sports, including UFC 302. Some exciting news out of there. Not a lot of knockouts, but a lot of action that's going on. Some news out of baseball, MLB. What else? MLS. MLS has been the saving grace now that EPL is gone. Champions League just finished over the weekend. Real Madrid, we'll talk a little bit about them. They are the kings of Europe, probably the world, probably the best team we've seen in a long time. But we'll kick it off talking about some NHL action over the weekend. The Florida Panthers knock off the New York Rangers, and the Edmonton Oilers knock off the Dallas Stars, both in 6. And we set up a long distance. My understanding, some of the flights are like 6-7 hours to travel from Edmonton to South Florida, which is pretty wild. And this series kicks off on Saturday. Saturday puck drops. We're going to wait like 6 days for that, which sucks. But the hype up, it's going to align with what the NBA is doing. And the NBA kicks off, I think Friday. We'll get to that in a second. So just looking back on my thoughts on how that series played out. Well, coming into the series, both series, I thought New York's time was now. I thought Florida on a roll. I thought the Rangers had enough seasoning to come through, use their offensive power play to knock off the Florida Panthers in a tight series. And it was tight until we hit Game 5, where the Panthers simply shut down the New York Rangers. The Panarins of the world are probably in the doghouse for the Rangers for not necessarily stepping up when needed. The power play wasn't anywhere to what it was earlier on in the playoffs and in the regular season. Adam Fox, so-so playoff. You had some big playoff series by Maxime Lafreniere, former first overall draft pick. Had some heat from maybe not jumping out of the gate in his career and being a star, but I think we developed a star here and a guy that they can run with, especially in the playoffs. I think his game is suited for a playoff tight checking type of situation like he found himself in, and he performed really well. Let me have a sip of coffee, no beer right now. Homemade coffee is pretty damn good. Dark roast black. Kicks ass. Now, the Florida Panthers, for some reason the light bulb went off last year. They squeak into the playoffs. This is coming off a President's Trophy, top regular season team the year previous. Fire their coach, bring in Paul Maurice. Slip into the playoffs. Knock off the Bruins in 7. Go on a run. Get knocked off in the Stanley Cup Final by the Vegas Golden Knights. They just happen to run out of gas. Then they come into this season, hit the ground, goddamn running. The Florida Panthers walk into the playoff, smack a few teams around, get to the Rangers, show them what's what. Sam Bennett's of the world, the Matthew Tkachuk's of the world, the Barkovs, the Reinhardts, the Ekblads, the Montadors, and Sergei Bobrovsky. Bob. Man, he is a playoff performer, to say the least, on fire. And by Game 5, it was the Rangers' battery power ran out, and the Florida Panthers just steamrolled them. Interesting way that finished. The goals were few and far between in the last two games of that series. Ends in 6. Florida Panthers, deservedly so, reach the Stanley Cup final, trying to get the job done this year, where last year they could not. And you go to the Western Conference. Edmonton Oilers, years past with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You know what? Basically didn't have the team makeup to get past the Colorados of the world and really take that next step. Everybody wanted to see Connor McDavid in a final. Get to against the Dallas Stars. Again, I thought Dallas, the way they played against Colorado and the way they played the first couple games of the series were going to be more than the Oilers could handle. Jake Ottinger would have stood on his head. But in fact, it was Stuart Skinner. Stuart goddamn Skinner, who was relieved of duty earlier in the series. And then Stuart Skinner comes back and stonewalls, destroys the confidence of the Dallas Stars. They squeak one goal by him in Game 5 with a unique deflection. And then Game 6, they, get a junk goal against them, which they're crashing the net. Bad bounce off the boards. He stood on his head. And the difference between the Edmonton Oilers of the past and the present in a playoff run was they killed 28 straight penalties. Was it power plays against them? Penalty kills, 28 straight. And then on the power play, they had 10 shots in the game, but they got 2 power play goals. That's a difference maker when skill is what makes you better than another team. And when you have the opportunity to capitalize on the power play, you do it. You actually do it. That means you're going to the Stanley Cup final. And then you throw in a Stuart Skinner, a big goal by a big-time play by Connor McDavid to open the game. And, of course, Zach Hyman, 50-goal man, regular season, and scoring goals in the playoffs. You need that supporting cast. It starts with your top guys, but it has to also trickle down to those Zach Hymans of the world, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and, of course, Stuart Skinner, the goaltending they did not have in years past, stepping up. They tried to make a run with Mike Smith, former Coyote, Flame goalie, past his prime. And a couple other guys that just didn't cut it. It just everything's coming together for them. And Dallas, I think they got a lot of questions, had a fine run. But I think Joe Pavelski, UFA, I think that it's over for him. I think he's done in Dallas. I think maybe he may look at, what do I got left in my career? Because he didn't show. He was forcing it. The Stars have a lot of young talent. So they got to make some decisions that who are the passengers and who are the guys are going to get me back to this point to take another crack at a team like Edmonton next year. So we move on to the Stanley Cup final. Florida Panthers have home ice advantage. They are the favorites. And before we go forward, I ain't going to mention this, but you've probably seen it online. You probably know that the real story of the Edmonton Oilers, I've heard people call online Edmonton is America's team. It's funny because they're really blue collar and people are really getting behind the Oilers, not just Canada. But there was a shot going around from a certain fan who provided a certain image, who provided a certain trending topic, wearing a jersey and then not wearing a jersey, then wearing a jersey again, if you get my drift, that has popularized many people on the Oiler bandwagon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're out of the loop. And get on Twitter. And you can follow the Overrated Experience on Twitter at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. And let's just say you should know what I'm talking about. Anywho, the Panthers come into the series as a minus 130 favorite, plus 108. The Oilers, very tight there. Value for some of the series specials, if you take a look at it, there's a lot of opportunities. for example, something like 10, will they have a game where there's just a free-for-all of goals? Will there be 10-plus goals in any of the games in the series? Will it maybe a 7-3 game, maybe a 5-5 winner in overtime, 6-5, plus 132? That's way too low. Will 6 goals be scored in every game of the series, plus 2,200? It's hard to see that Florida Panthers series is going to have multiple games with 6 or more over. Will Sergei Bobrovsky record 20 saves in every game? That's definitely doable. Plus 270. I like that. That's actually pretty good. If you really get crazy, plus 25 saves in plus 1,800. You got to remember that Florida is great at blocking shots. So that might be looking good, but the reality is that the Oilers may not get that many good looks. We'll see. But if you like the Oilers, plus 108. But if you like this series to go 6 or 7 games, if you like this series to go 6 or 7 games, hear me out here. Hear me out. If you take the Oilers to go win this series in 6 plus 460, no, don't hear me out on this one. So I honestly, the value here is not really much. I do like the Florida Panthers, but for plus 108, you might as well take the Oilers. But honestly, you might want to wait till after game 1 and somebody overreacting. So if the Oilers knock it off and you like the Panthers, then maybe the Florida Panthers go into a plus situation. I'd wait till then. Maybe like the Oilers, same thing. Let it play out. So I don't know. Geez, 1 plus 1, there's nothing here. Hold off, guys. Hold off. Conn Smythe odds for the Stanley Cup MVP. Connor McDavid plus 230. Now, okay, keep in mind here, guys. The NHL and like NBA, I think they're very transparent that, the idea of this award is to start with a clean slate. It is a playoff MVP, but you got to imagine that the league has already penciled in until otherwise he's not, Connor McDavid to win the Conn Smythe. So remember this, Conn Smythe is already penciled in with Connor McDavid at plus 230 already until he loses it. But if you like Florida, they have Barkov at plus 380. Yeah, I know that Barkov, he's always that guy that you have to remind people of how talented he is. And you will hear about 1,000 times in this playoff series, people trying to remind you and let you know who he is and how good he is. And it just doesn't translate to when you're watching. He is that good, but he's not the face of the Florida Panthers. So I don't think that plus 380 is going to get you anywhere. But Sergei Bobrovsky plus 400 or Matthew Tkachuk plus 600, why not? Why not? Those are good values right there. But Bobrovsky, come on. Everybody knows that this team has gone a long way this year and last. And Bobrovsky might also have that, what he's done this over the last 2 seasons kind of resume that might push him forward if the Panthers win the Cup. All right? And unless McDavid blows the doors off, getting points and goals in a loss, I can't see where a Florida Panther is not going to win this. And Bobrovsky, to me, plus 400 is your best value. And, and you also have Conn Smythe. If you look at position, minus 330 for a forward to win it. We just talked about Bobrovsky. And I can't imagine this series being tight. And plus 400 for a goaltender? Why not? Why not? What if it's Stuart Skinner? Right now, he is in the limelight. The Oilers failed many years, and then suddenly Stuart Skinner's playing on his head, and they're reaching the Stanley Cup final. Definitely in contention for a potential Conn Smythe. Okay? So there's value there 100%. And you can get into silly stuff. Like I don't see me touching this, but if you look at the player who receives the first pass of the NHL Stanley Cup from the game-winning captain. So, if you don't know hockey, the tradition is once Gary Bettman gets booed and he's ready to present the Stanley Cup, he actually calls the captain over the team. And so Barkov for Florida and McDavid for Edmonton. And the bet here is who is the first person they will hand the Stanley Cup to. So if you're the Florida Panthers, Barkov, it's plus 138 to go to Bobrovsky, which makes sense. Draisaitl for the Oilers is plus 164. But if you look at maybe if McDavid has to raise the cup and give it to a longer serving Edmonton Oiler, maybe it is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's plus 820. I don't know. But that's a tough one. But Bobrovsky's probably the guy who's going to get it for Florida. But I'm a little torn because Draisaitl's plus 164. But Nugent-Hopkins might be the guy that gets the cup in a plus 820. Might be a good value there. That is your Stanley Cup futures. Now, the game itself on Saturday, man, I'm still going to go over 5.5. It's minus 115. What a stupid bet. But it might happen. So that's my play. And that's more of the action junkie in me more than the value. Let's go with the over. Now we move on to the NBA final, which the Dallas Mavericks had to wait one more game, but they walked through the Minnesota Timberwolves, who just folded 5 games. Boston walked over the Indiana Pacers, who basically pissed away game 1 and pissed away a couple games in this series, to be honest. And Boston's where they need to be. This game opens up on Thursday, actually, 8:30 tip-off. And let's start with the game itself. The Boston Celtics, you would expect, are heavy favorites, minus 255. 6.5 point spread, minus 108. Now, do you have faith in Luka? Like the NBA wants Luka to make a run. They want him to be a showstopper. You want him to put him out there. Do you like him to cover? Boston should win in 4 or 5 games. This team is built for the championship. It's built to make a run. They got the depth. But maybe game 1, just like Indiana, they make a run here. So I'm going to say let's go plus 6.5. Let's go with Luka here. Let's go with Kyrie. Kyrie's return to Boston. Fans are going to be going nuts, booing Kyrie. Apparently he came out today saying he regretted, having those dust-ups with fans in Boston when he was there. Minus 114 for the over is 214, by the way. That seems a little juicy. Might be something worth looking at, the over there. But as far as the series goes, Boston is a heavy favorite, again, minus 220. Do you see Dallas really winning the series? Do you see him winning the series? I don't know. I think it's Boston's time. I think it's lights out for anybody in Boston's way. But if there's a team to do it, maybe the Dallas Mavericks are that team. And if you like them, plus 184 might suit you better. MVP, Jason Tatum is a heavy favorite at minus 120. However, Jaylen Brown, who is plus 600 in the series, was the Eastern Conference MVP. And the Boston Celtics move the ball around. There's a lot of guys that touch the ball. So there might be a chance where, either a guy like Jaylen Brown does it again, or, maybe if this series goes 6 or 7 games, if it goes 7 for sure, and again, the Boston Celtic offense and stats are spread out, that Luka in a losing situation or winning situation, plus 200 might be value. So take a look at that, take it for what it is, and go from there. Awards, NBA Finals MVP, we just talked about it, and I'm just repeating myself, so I'm going to go back there. And if you want to get crazy, looking to next season for the NBA, which is LeBron's next season team, Lakers are minus 370. Sixers are making a lot of noise. They're talking about either getting LeBron or Jimmy Butler or some other big guys to go along with Joel Embiid. We'll see if that happens. But does he go back to Cleveland? Does he wait until his son's drafted and head who drafts him? But expect the unexpected with LeBron, but tough to see him on another team other than the Lakers heading into next season. that is the story when it comes to the NHL and NBA. Now we're going to get to some news out of baseball quickly. Angel Hernandez, veteran umpire, has retired. You may know Angel from calls such as check swings on Bryce Harper and controversy, getting tossed, arguments. You may get there was a game against who was it? It was the Mets. It was a Mets game, but I don't think the Mets. I think it was a Diamondback that was up. I can't recall, but a swing that was not a swing. Just many incidents, especially a strike zone, where Angel Hernandez was completely off. And if you lived on X or Twitter, there would be nightly clips of multiple calls missed by Angel Hernandez. Sadly enough, he's one of many umpires that are actually missing a lot. And I'm wondering when it comes to Angel Hernandez, and I'm looking at baseball overall, and you look at majority of pitchers now are clocking 100 miles per hour plus and change on a consistent basis with nasty movement. Has the pitching surpassed the human capability to really register, like to actually be like have a strike zone where you can be consistent as a human being? Really? Can you sit there and watch an Aroldis Chapman's 102 mile an hour fastball and tell me if it caught a corner as it's got late movement on it? How is it possible? How is it possible? You know, the hitters seem to have really honed in on their ability to have a great eye on the strike zone. But we're talking guys in their 20s, in the prime of their life, super athletes, compared to, 50, 60-year-old men. I'm telling you right now, as a 40-plus-year-old guy, and I'm going to tell you how much I am, 46, don't care. Anyway, your eyesight goes fast. Are you telling me all these guys have laser eye surgery? Is there a requirement for them to have eye tests, corrective vision? There is no way that their eyesight is qualified on a consistent basis to have the ability to consistently call 102 mile an hour four-seam fastball with life on it consistently in the strike zone for strikes, like accurately. There is no goddamn way. So the appeal, which will never, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. And I don't know if you want to take too much of the human element out of the game. But as far as automated strike zones, I think it's coming. It's coming closer. But be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. Any change is not as simple as you think. If you look at, soccer, European soccer, VAR, video assistant review, there's debate that if the Premier League want to keep it or remove it. Because what happens is then you start picking at, wow, that wasn't what the intention of the VAR was, that fingertip that is offside. You know what? But you want it replay. You want it the review or automation, and it's going to be a fine line. It's either yay or nay. There is no gray area. You can't decide. You can't get a feel of the game. So you take the human element out of it, where a linesman might keep his flag down because he's not going to notice the tip of a finger, unlike VAR does. Right? So do you just stick with things like tags and like all those things that are either yes or no versus debatable questioning, calls such as a strike zone? Because that's yay or nay. It's a strike zone, is a strike zone. But is that what you want? Is that what you want? So I don't know. And think, what impact would that have on pitching? Right? Would it uniquely change anything as far as the whole craft of a game plan when you get to the plate and when you're deciding to throw the slider versus fastball? Does it change the dynamic of that special relationship between a pitcher versus a batter and a catcher and umpire, does it change what baseball is? So be very careful. I don't mind if they implement the whole touching of the helmet and maybe a batter has a chance to challenge a strike. That's fine to me. But maybe going too far that it's fully automated. We're going to see. But as far as Angel Hernandez, I know all you're thinking right now, I hate that guy. He was one of the worst umpires. He had a short temper tossing guys out. Like, is that how you feel? Tell me right now. Think for 5 seconds right now. How much do you, the listener out there, hate Angel Hernandez? Okay, think about that right now. Think of a scale 1 to 10. How much do you hate Angel Hernandez? Do you hate his guts? Do you hate him as a person? And then we flip back to you and say that, well, Angel Hernandez does charity work to help disabled children. How does that make you feel now, you bastard? How does that make you feel now? So I think all of us got to take a step back and look at the job. I think it's fair to criticize the job, but anybody who is charitable for disabled children, you know what? You got my respect. So that's the human being, respect. The actual skill of the job, not so much. But thought that was an interesting tidbit about the man who is Angel Hernandez, now formerly an MLB umpire. Champions League finished off Saturday, 3 p.m. Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid of Spain, Borussia Dortmund of Germany. Some highlights there is that Real Madrid are champions, 2-0 victory. Borussia Dortmund hung in this game, couldn't finish early. They had Real Madrid, as much as you're going to have Real Madrid on the ropes, they're never on the ropes. They have so much goddamn firepower, it's unbelievable. And Real Madrid does what they do. You let them hang around the second half, they score a goal, they score 2 goals, and lights out, you're done. And Real Madrid wins. They're the best team on the planet. Man City is the only team in the conversation that could challenge Real Madrid, and they knocked them out, although through penalty kicks. But Real Madrid is the best of the best. And they go into next season, just confirmed that they picked up Kylian Mbappe, French superstar, maybe the best player on the planet, to go into next season after winning La Liga and another Champions League. There was talk about going after Alphonso Davies. That looks like it's cooled off. He might go back to Bayern Munich. But you know that there's teams out there that are simply the powerhouses and need to be good. Like the Yankees, you expect them in baseball to be the top. The Dodgers, the best team in baseball all the time. Not some of the time, all the time. I know that's hard to happen. That's why the Cowboys get the shit kicked out of them in the media, because the expectation is the Cowboys should be the top team in the world in the NFL, the NHL, the Leafs, because they are the franchise. They have the money, and they're the big deal. They're disappointments in life in general. That's why they get beat down in the media and through fans. And that's why Manchester United is, disgusting right now. But Real Madrid is the top dog in the world. They're the class. And as much as there are players, and many do move to Saudi Arabia, and the money's damn well good, and I can't blame them, there is something about winning and playing your prime of your career, obviously making good money, but there's nothing like putting on and accomplishing something in certain jerseys, and Real Madrid is definitely one of those in world football. Winning a Champions League in Real Madrid is definitely different if Borussia Dortmund would have pulled that off. Just like the Yankees winning a World Series with the Yankees has more value, and it's bad to say, right? You win a championship with the Lakers in the NBA. There's more value. There's more credibility to that ring you've earned. And Real Madrid is a powerhouse. They run their franchise top notch. Beautiful stadium. They are the kings. And you notice the difference between the greatest teams on the planet in world football to some of the good teams in world football, like, for example, Borussia Dortmund, who made the Champions League final, and they were not a significant threat in the Bundesliga this year, because when teams like that have to make a run, both as the German season's going on and the Champions League's going on, they do not have the depth to keep up in both sides. Well, Real Madrid could field 3 teams over and be successful. That's how good this team is. They're so goddamn good. Respect the Real Madrid. I'm not even a Real Madrid fan, but you got to respect. You know, they want to spend the money. I'm sure they're making it off the field, but they are the best. The best. They are the best. And that's all I got to say about that. And then we go into UFC 302. Big events. I only got a chance to see the top 2 fights. You know what I mean? I only got a chance to watch, and I paid for them. Wink, wink, paid for those. The ability to watch UFC 302. So what did we learn from 302? Well, out of the Costa-Sean Strickland fight, that judging in mixed martial arts is absolutely horrendous. And where we're going with that is Sean Strickland won this fight. He wins by split decision. If you watch, it was a 5-round fight. Outside of 2 calf kicks that Costa threw on Sean Strickland early in the fight, this fight was dominated. He marched Costa back the whole fight by Sean Strickland. And for this to be a split decision where a judge actually put out there that Sean Strickland lost this fight, you should immediately be escorted out of the building as a judge, have your eyesight checked or something, because I have no idea. Dana White is quoted, "It wasn't weird, it was fucking nuts," is what it was. Insane. That guy should never judge a big fight again. They should kick him back down to the minor leagues and let it work on his judging. That's Dana White on MMA judge Dave Tyrelli scoring in favor of Paulo Costa, a wide margin against Sean Strickland. You got to be a fucking moron. A fucking moron. Not just a moron, a fucking moron. If you watch that fight, think about it. He's paid to get into the building. They're actually handing him a check, this judge, Tyrelli, to sit in the best seats you can possibly sit in front of the octagon. Meticulously watch this fight. Everybody else is watching on TV pays. Everybody in that building's paying. He actually gets paid and supposedly trained to watch a fight and take notes and score points. And he comes out with Sean Strickland lost that fight. You can't have any credibility just destroyed than that judge did there that night. Disgusting. And yeah, Sean Strickland, just moving on from that, talked about he took the fight for the sake of taking the fight, but needs to be in the title picture. Can't agree more. I think we're wasting our time to see Strickland in his prime not fight for a title. So get him back in the title picture immediately. That's what his next fight should be. The winner between Izzy and Dupree. So that's got to happen. And then we had the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poitier. And Makhachev, Islam choked him out in the 5th round. Now, what I'll take away from this is, if you look at the UFC, how it's constructed, a championship fight or a co-main event, non-championship fight, or could be, is also a main event for 5 rounds. Now, if these were 10-minute rounds, 15-minute rounds, or no time rounds, Islam would have choked Dustin out immediately just after that 5 minutes. That first round, he was saved. Dustin was saved by the bell. There's no question. If you give him more time, Islam would have choked him out. As the fight's progressing, Dustin put up a good fight, but you could clearly see that both on the ground and then on, the threat of him knocking your lights out, Dustin, that Makhachev was still in control of that fight. And the better fighter was clearly Islam. there's no question on this. I know that people are maybe criticizing that this fight didn't end earlier, but again, this fight could have ended multiple times if the round didn't end. Dustin put up a good fight. The guy's a veteran fighter. He's been fighting forever, and all he's done is fought top talent. And so to put up a fight is not expected. But the way Islam ended that fight, tapped him out, and then Dustin passed out. And I guess the debate after was, people are calling Islam the pound for pound best fighter in the world. And then, Dana White comes out and totally disagrees and talks about John Jones being the best pound for pound fighter in the world as a heavyweight champion, former light heavyweight champion. Now, here's my take on this, is that, and you can see this take on my X page, at Overrated Experience, that's Overrated EXPER2, is that, you could call John Jones the GOAT, the greatest of all time, for what he's done over his career. But when you're talking about right now as the pound for pound best fighter in the world, meaning take out weight class, talk about best pound for pound fighter in the world, how do you not pick out Islam Makhachev as the guy? John Jones has fought once in 4 years. 4 years. And it lasted less than a round, which is kudos to him. But you can't talk about somebody who's fought once in 4 years and say today, right now, you would rank them as the pound for pound best fighter in the world. I don't think so. So I think Dana's got a little biased on that one, and I think he's wrong. If we're talking about right now, not for the past, but right at this moment, Islam Makhachev, he is the champ, he is the man, and he is the pound for pound best fighter in the world. All right, moving on. Just to let you guys know that the CFL kicks off this season kicks off on Thursday. A lot of betting action here. A lot of guys on Twitter. I know Steve Fezzik, who's a professional gambler in Vegas. Follow his Twitter page. I know he has a lot of takes on CFL action, so it should be fun. And first kickoff is the Montreal Alouettes take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And kick off Thursday action if you wanted to get some early flavor action on football at the 3-down variety. And then Friday, we got Hamilton and Calgary. Calgary is a 1.5-point favorite. And that first game, by the way, the Blue Bombers are 6.5-point favorites. That game kicks off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturday, 4 p.m., due to the fact that the Edmonton Oilers kick off the Stanley Cup Final at 8 o'clock, that game is moved to an afternoon game. The Edmonton Elks take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The Elks are 2.5-point favorites. And on Sunday, 7 p.m., the Toronto Argos will take on the BC Lions, and the Lions on the road are 5.5-point favorites. Interesting. Should be something to bet on there. And what else do we got? What else do we got in Manopa? NFL early lines. All right. NFL early lines. We have, it's out there, Baltimore, Kansas City. Kansas City still a 3-point favorite. And I won't go through the rest of them, but you got Philadelphia in the Brazil game, $1.50 favorite over the Packers. And then guess what's coming up mid-June? Euros. The Euros are coming. Soccer's, the second biggest tournament in the world, which are going to be the Euros, Euro 2024 futures. England. It's plus 320 to win this tournament. Excuse me. This tournament's taking place in Germany. I think it's a joke. I think that's got to be bet up based on English fans. England has won nothing forever, and they choked in the final against Italy 3 years ago when this tournament was last held. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a pandemic, screwed the timing up. But France plus 380, Germany plus 430. If you really want to get crazy, you're going to look at the bottom of the pool, and why don't you go with Slovenia plus 43,000. Plus 40, let's say Slovenia. So if you bet Slovenia right now to win the Euros and put $100 on here, you'd win $43,000 straight up. $10, 4,300. Slovenia has no chance, by the way, so do not do that. You're just pissing away $10. But we'll probably have a show that focuses on the Euros. Copa America also coming up, so keep that in mind. Golf action, the U.S. Open is mid-month. Also another betting situation. And Conor McGregor is supposed to fight for UFC 303, and that takes place against Michael Chandler. And that is going to happen. When is it going to happen, Kyle? When is that fight going to happen? Well, once I find the sport of MMA, I'll tell you when it's going to happen. And it's not that far off. It is going to be, oh my God, what is it? Later in April. It's like later in June, sorry. And funny enough, though, the press conference was supposed to take place in Dublin, Ireland. Was canceled today. We don't know why, but we've seen clips of Conor McGregor partying while Michael Chandler's in training. So something weird might be going on there, or the Conor McGregor's taking the Ryan Garcia, the boxer, approach and kind of putting out bullshit out there in the media to make it think he's not trying or trying to win or not taking training seriously. So be interesting how this looks as we get closer to that card. So more to come there. And I'm going to see what else. What else we got on the card? Nothing else to really talk about. I think we've gone on long enough. So the Overrated Experience is done for tonight. Episode 55. The pleasure all been yours. Overrated Experience is over and out. See ya.